Nearly 300,000 cases in a day. This should sum up India's pandemic crisis. It's going to take a lot to crush this surge and to tame these deadly mutants. Tonight, I want to begin with some good news. India has found an effective weapon against the mutations. It's called Covaxin, the Made in India shot. The latest tests show that Covaxin is effective against all mutations. It's the jab being produced by Bharat Biotech, one of the two vaccines being administered in India. The other, as you know, is Covishield. So here's what we know about Covaxin now. It has an efficacy of 78% in general and an efficacy of 100% against severe infections. So if you get this shot, Covaxin, you'll most likely not end up in hospital. That is, if you contract the virus. And here's the biggest takeaway from the Covaxin trial. The vaccine works against mutations too. All the variants you've been hearing about, the UK variant, the Brazil variant, the South African variant, even the double mutant, the one that's said to be driving India's second wave, Covaxin should work against all of these. This is according to an interim analysis of the final phase of trials, that is phase 3 trials. The final report on this is expected in June. And that's when the findings will be submitted to a peer-reviewed journal for publication. Nonetheless, these results are very promising. How does this compare to other shots? Take the case of Pfizer. It has an effectiveness of 95%. It works well against the Brazil and UK variant, but according to an Israeli study, the Brazil variant could break through the protection of the Pfizer shot. Again, this does not mean that the vaccine is not going to help you, but it may be less effective. Either way, Pfizer does not want to take any chances. It is now looking into what a third dose might do, a booster shot as they call it. That could be given 6 to 12 months after the first 2 doses. Pfizer is conducting a study into the need of the third dose. Then we have Moderna. It is also considering similar possibilities. It reported a more than 90% efficacy for its shot, but it is testing the use of a third dose. Also a booster shot that targets the South African variant. How do the other vaccines fare? Sputnik V, for instance. The makers of this shot say their vaccine is more effective against mutations. That's because it's the only vaccine in the world that uses 2 different kinds of shots. Here's what happens in other vaccines. You get 2 doses of the same vaccine. But in the case of Sputnik V, the second dose is slightly different from the first. And this combination is supposed to prevent the second shot from neutralizing the immunization effects of the first one. Essentially, the purpose remains the same. It's the approach that is different. A study found that Sputnik V has a 92% efficacy rate. What about AstraZeneca, the one that we call Covishield in India? This shot has an overall efficacy of 76%, but it was returned by South Africa. That's because the vaccine was not very effective against the South African variant. Reports say the company is now making a modified version of this vaccine. It should be ready by the end of 2021. And finally, we have Johnson & Johnson, the only single-shot vaccine in the world so far. An overall efficacy rate of 72%. Its trials happened when the South African and Brazilian variants had already spread. So we have some specifics here. This shot, Johnson & Johnson, was 64% effective in South Africa and 66% effective in Brazil. All these vaccines still have to be tested against the double mutant and now the triple mutant, which has been found in India. But here's what we can say for sure. Any vaccine is better than none. Go and get what you're getting. And I know what some of you may be thinking. People are testing positive even after vaccination. So how does it help? Let me show you some data. As we told you before, India is using 2 vaccines, Covishield and Covaxin. More than 100 million people have got Covishield and over 10 million people have got Covaxin. So we have data for more than 110 million people in India. Do you know how many vaccinated citizens, those who got both the doses, have been infected by the Wuhan virus? Not even 0.1%. A little over 17,000 people got infected after taking one shot of Covishield. That's 0.02% of the total. Similarly, about 4,200 people got infected after their first shot of Covaxin, 0.04%. What happened after 2 doses? The results are better. In the case of Covishield, a little more than 5,000 were infected. That's 0.03% of the total. And in the case of Covaxin, just 695 or 0.04% people. Well, this should tell you how vaccines help. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.